and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Yeah, I'll be filming my week 1 college football predictions. If you watch my prediction videos for these teams, you already know who I'm picking to win these games. But I'm going to give a score prediction for each one of these games. Now, I know it's pretty much impossible to get a score prediction exactly right, but this is just an estimate of how I think these games might go. So starting with Nebraska versus Cincinnati on Thursday night, Nebraska's season I think is going to be determined by this game. If Nebraska is like they have been for a long time now, I think they'll probably lose this game. But if they're the winner of this game, I think they will have a decent season. But I'm pretty sure this is going to be a close game because Cincinnati, I don't think, is going to be a terrible team this year. I don't see them as a contender to win their conference, but I think they're a team that might ruin it for somebody else. And Cincinnati isn't terrible at the line of scrimmage, so I don't think Nebraska is just going to be able to push them around. And Cincinnati's new running back, Tolly Walker, I think will have a good game because of Nebraska losing everybody on their defensive line from the year before. But I do think Nebraska overall does have the line of scrimmage advantage because of their offensive line. I think they're going to have one of the better offensive lines in college football. And I think Nebraska's got the quarterback advantage because Dylan Raiola I think is going to throw for over 3,000 yards this season. Here's a clip of a touchdown pass by him.
Regular season. Amir Johnson in the backfield. Raiola trying to work some magic. Looping it towards the end zone. It's caught.
I've got Nebraska winning this game 28-20 over Cincinnati. So now Georgia Tech at Colorado. Georgia Tech's defense I don't think is going to be amazing this year, but because I think they're going to be able to control the clock in this game, I think their defense will be able to stay rested. And Colorado, you never have to worry about the run game with them because they don't have any. And Georgia Tech's secondary, I think, is going to be pretty good. And so Colorado, I just don't see scoring much at all in this game. And Colorado's linebackers and secondary, I think, will be decent, but their defensive line, I think, is still going to struggle. And because of that, I think Georgia Tech's running back Jamal Haynes and their quarterback Haynes King are both going to have big games running in this one. And I think Georgia Tech will rush for over 200 yards in this game and get the win fairly easily by a score of 28-10 over Colorado. So now Auburn at Baylor. So I think this game could determine how the season goes for both of these teams because Auburn, I think if they win this game, they're probably going to have a good season and win 9 or 10 games. But if they lose this game, I think there's more of a chance that they only win 5 games again and Hugh Freeze gets fired than there is that Auburn wins 9 games. And Baylor, if they don't win this game, even though it's not a conference game, if they're not good enough to beat Auburn, I don't really see much of a chance of them being good enough to make it to the Big 12 championship. And I did pick Baylor to make it to the Big 12 championship, but that was before they lost two of who were going to be good players for them this year. They lost their number 2 running back, Pendergrass, to a foot injury for the season, and then they lost a safety that they brought in from Northwestern, Turner, who was a good player at Northwestern for the season because of a ACL injury. And had I have known those injuries were going to happen, I may not have picked them to make it to the Big 12 championship. But it still wouldn't have changed my pick for this game. I think it's going to be close, but I think Baylor gets the win by a score of 31-24 over Auburn. So now the biggest game of the week, Texas at Ohio State. Julian saying Ryan Day confirmed is going to be the starting quarterback for them this season. And I do think he'll be good because Ryan Day has never coached a quarterback that has not been good. But I don't think he'll play very well in this game. And, I'm real high on Arch Manning, but I don't think he'll play that well in this game either. And as much as Ohio State loses from the year before, they still have arguably the 2 best players in college football, Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver and Caleb Downs at safety. Here's the clip of the game-ending interception by Caleb Downs in the playoff game against Texas last year.
Pressure with 4 and playing a lot of zone tonight.
Ewers steps up down the middle. It's intercepted. Caleb Downs has got it, and he'll.
So if Jeremiah Smith can't be involved in this game, I don't see Ohio State having any chance of winning. And Texas was the only team last year that was able to take away Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith against Texas last year only had 1 catch for 4 yards. And I know Ohio State is always loaded at wide receiver, but last year Emeka Egbuka had a big game in that one, and he's not there anymore. I think this game will go similar to the Kansas State Iowa State game did last week. I think it'll be more of a defensive game, and I think it'll be very low scoring in the first half, but I think the offenses will start to do better in the second half. But I trust Texas's defense a little bit more right now. I think that makes the difference. Ohio State and Texas had the top 2 defenses in the country last year, and Texas's defense I still think will be about that good, but Ohio State's defense I think will be more like a top 20 defense this season. Texas's defense is loaded with players with a bunch of experience, while Ohio State's defense only returns 3 starters. I've got Texas getting the win 24-20 over Ohio State. So now Alabama at Florida State. So Florida State's new quarterback that they brought in from Boston College, Castellanos, was running his mouth in June. He said that Alabama's not the same anymore because they no longer have Nick Saban to save them, and he doesn't think that they'll be able to stop him. Now, I agree that Alabama's not the same without Nick Saban. But if I was him, I would have just kept my mouth shut because last season he didn't even average 200 yards passing per game, and he only averaged 2.1 yards per run. And Alabama still had a top 10 defense in the country last season, and he's coming to a team that just went 2-10 the year before with one of the worst offenses in college football history. And Alabama is still a much better team than Florida State. Florida State, I think, is a 6 or 7 win team, while Alabama, I think, is at least again a 9 win team. Now, something interesting about this one is Florida State brought in Gus Malzahn to be their offensive coordinator, who was the head coach of Alabama's biggest rival, Auburn, for a long time and beat Alabama 3 times. So I do think Florida State's offense will be better than last year. But bad news for Florida State is their head coach, Mike Norvell, doesn't know what he's doing. So Alabama will be without two of their good players in this game. Jam Miller, their starting running back, and Tim Keenan, a starting defensive lineman. So they're not season-ending injuries. I think they'll just be out for this game. So the starting running back for Alabama in this one will probably be Richard Young. He was a four-star running back, and he was at running back number 3 last season. So he only got 27 carries, but he did have on that 146 and 2 touchdowns, averaging 5.4 a carry. So I think he'll do fine for them at running back in this game. And even though it would be better if they had Keenan in there, Alabama does have a lot of depth on their defensive line, so I still think they'll be fine there for this one. And I am high on Alabama this year, but I am not high on Ty Simpson at quarterback, and I think he'll have a slow start in this game, and because of that, I think Florida State will be able to stay in this game for most of it. But I do think in the fourth quarter, Alabama will pull away and win it by at least a couple of touchdowns. I've got Alabama getting the win 27-13 over Florida State. So now LSU at Clemson. I did pick LSU to win the national championship, and I picked Clemson to win this game. But even if LSU wins this game, my pick would be wrong for this game. But I would feel better about my pick for the national champion because there wasn't a team this year like Ohio State last year, where I felt really good about picking them to win the national championship. And LSU, I think, has the best roster in the country this year, but Brian Kelly has lost nearly every game like this. And both teams, I'd say, have at least a top 20 defense this year, probably better. But I would feel better about my pick for the national champion if LSU had a better offensive coordinator than they do. I think Clemson having Garrett Riley, uh, they have a better offensive coordinator than LSU does. And both offenses, I do think, have a chance to be elite this year. And I think this will be a four-quarter game that stays within one score the whole game, and it probably even goes down to the last play. I've got Clemson getting the win at 34-30 over LSU. So that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.